Did you know some of the biggest car brands in the world are losing buyers faster than ever? The automotive industry is experiencing one of its most transformative periods in history. While some brands are thriving in this new era of electrification and changing consumer preferences, others are struggling to maintain their market position. What's causing these iconic car companies to lose their edge? Today, we're going to look at 10 car brands that are losing buyers at an alarming rate, examining why customers are abandoning these once beloved manufacturers and what this means for the future of these companies. The global automotive landscape has shifted dramatically over the past decade. Electric vehicles, autonomous driving technology, and changing consumer expectations have forced traditional automakers to adapt or face extinction. Some brands have successfully navigated these changes, but others are watching their market share erode as buyers flock to competitors offering more compelling products, better value, or more forward-thinking technology. Let's start with Infiniti, Nissan's luxury division that once positioned itself as a Japanese alternative to German luxury brands. Infiniti sales have been in free fall for years now, with 2023 marking its lowest sales figures in decades. The brand sold just over 46,000 vehicles in the US last year, a staggering 79% drop from its peak in 2017 when it moved nearly 154,000 units. This collapse isn't happening in isolation. It's the result of several critical missteps. Infiniti's product lineup has grown stale and dated compared to competitors, while brands like Genesis and Lexus have been aggressively updating their vehicles with cutting-edge technology and fresh designs. Infiniti has allowed models like the QX60 and Q50 to soldier on with minimal updates for years. The brand has also been slow to embrace electrification, with no fully electric models in its lineup, while competitors are rapidly expanding their EV offerings. Perhaps most damaging has been Infiniti's identity crisis. The brand has struggled to define what it stands for in the luxury market. Is it sporty like BMW, technology-focused like Audi, value-oriented like Genesis? This lack of clear positioning has left potential buyers confused about why they should choose Infiniti over its more established rivals. Industry analysts suggest that without a dramatic reinvention, Infiniti might not survive the decade in the North American market. Next up is Fiat, which has seen its presence in the American market dwindle to near irrelevance. After a splashy reintroduction to the US in 2011 with the retro-styled 500, Fiat's sales have collapsed to just 605 vehicles in the US for the entire year of 2023. That's not a typo, just 605 cars across the entire country, a 96% drop from its peak in 2014 when it sold over 46,000 vehicles. Fiat's problems stem from a fundamental mismatch between its product offerings and American consumer preferences. The brand's focus on small, city-friendly cars never gained traction in a market dominated by SUVs and trucks. Quality issues and poor reliability ratings from organizations like Consumer Reports and J.D. Power further damage the brand's reputation. Fiat's dealer network has also shrunk dramatically, making it increasingly difficult for the few remaining interested buyers to find and service their vehicles. Parent company Stellantis has essentially abandoned Fiat in the US, reducing its lineup to just a single model, the all-electric 500e. While this might seem like a last-ditch effort to save the brand, the 500e's limited range and high price point compared to other EVs make it unlikely to reverse Fiat's fortunes in America. The brand continues to perform better in Europe, but its American experiment appears to be ending in failure. Moving on to Dodge, Another Stellantis brand that's facing significant challenges. While not in as dire straits as Fiat, Dodge has seen its sales decline by over 40% since 2015. The brand that built its modern identity around high-horsepower muscle cars is struggling to find its footing in an increasingly electrified world. Dodge's problem is largely one of its own making. It has become too dependent on aging platforms and nostalgia. The Charger and Challenger, which account for the majority of Dodge's sales, are built on platforms dating back to the Daimler-Chrysler era of the mid-2000s. While these vehicles have maintained a dedicated following thanks to their unapologetic focus on horsepower and straight-line performance, they've fallen behind competitors in terms of technology, efficiency, and overall refinement. The brand is attempting to reinvent itself with the upcoming all-electric Charger Daytona, but this transition risks alienating its core customer base of muscle car enthusiasts who value the visceral experience of a V8 engine. Meanwhile, Dodge has largely abandoned the mainstream family vehicle market, offering no competitive entries in popular segments like compact crossovers or mid-size sport utility vehicles. This narrow focus has limited its appeal to a shrinking demographic of performance car buyers. Buick, General Motors' near-luxury brand, presents an interesting case study in brand decline. While Buick remains enormously successful in China, its presence in its home market has diminished significantly. U.S. sales have dropped by over 60% since 2005, and the brand now sells fewer than 100,000 vehicles annually in America. Buick's challenges stem from its struggle to attract younger buyers and shake its reputation as a brand for older consumers. Despite efforts to reposition itself with stylish crossovers like the Encore and Envision, the average age of a Buick buyer remains among the highest in the industry at around 60 years old. This aging customer base presents an existential threat to the brand's long-term viability in the U.S. market. General Motors has responded by making Buick one of its first brands to commit to an all-electric future, announcing that the entire Buick lineup will be electric by 2030. The upcoming Electra EV lineup represents a clean-sheet approach to reinventing the brand. But Buick faces an uphill battle in convincing consumers to consider it alongside more established luxury EV makers like Tesla and emerging players like Rivian. Lincoln, Ford's luxury division, has experienced a similar trajectory to Buick. Once a dominant player in the American luxury market, Lincoln's sales have declined by over 50% since 2000. The brand sold just 83,486 vehicles in the U.S. in 2023, a fraction of what luxury leaders like BMW and Mercedes-Benz achieve. Lincoln's decline can be attributed to several factors, including inconsistent product planning and a blurry brand identity. The brand has abandoned its traditional sedan lineup entirely, focusing exclusively on SUVs and crossovers. While this aligns with broader market trends, it has limited Lincoln's ability to compete in the full spectrum of luxury segments. Ford's approach to Lincoln has often seemed half-hearted, with many Lincoln models sharing obvious components and architectures with mainstream Ford vehicles. This part-sharing strategy has made it difficult for Lincoln to establish itself as a true luxury competitor worthy of the premium prices it charges. The brand has made efforts to create more distinctive products, with models like the Aviator and Nautilus, but it continues to struggle with differentiating itself in the crowded luxury marketplace. Mitsubishi represents one of the most dramatic falls from grace in the automotive industry. Once known for innovative vehicles like the Evolution and Eclipse, Mitsubishi has seen its U.S. market share collapse from 2% in the early 2000s to just 0.5% today. The brand sold fewer than 100,000 vehicles in the U.S. in 2023, a shadow of its former presence. Mitsubishi's decline began with financial troubles at its parent company in Japan, which led to severe underinvestment in new products for the North American market. The brand allowed its lineup to age without significant updates, eventually discontinuing once popular models like the Lancer and Eclipse without direct replacements. This left Mitsubishi with a small lineup of dated vehicles that struggled to compete with more modern offerings from Korean and American brands. The company's 2016 alliance with Renault-Nissan provided some financial stability, but hasn't yet translated into a compelling product renaissance. Mitsubishi's current lineup consists primarily of budget-oriented crossovers that fail to stand out in their segments. The brand has announced plans to introduce new electrified vehicles, but it faces an uphill battle in rebuilding consumer awareness and consideration after years of market irrelevance. Chrysler, once one of America's big three automakers, has been reduced to a shell of its former self. The brand currently offers just two models, the aging 300 sedan, which is being discontinued after the 2023 model year, and the Pacifica minivan. This limited lineup resulted in just 112,000 sales in 2023, down nearly 70% from its modern peak in the mid-2000s. Stellantis, Chrysler's parent company, has repeatedly promised to revitalize the brand, most recently announcing plans to transform Chrysler into an all-electric brand by 2028. The Chrysler Airflow concept revealed in 2022 provides a glimpse of this potential future, but concrete product plans remain vague. In the meantime, Chrysler exists in a strange limbo. Not quite dead, but barely alive with just a single continuing model. The brand's decline reflects broader strategic confusion within the various iterations of Chrysler Corporation over the past 2 decades. As the company cycled through ownership by Daimler, Cerberus Capital Management, and now Stellantis, the Chrysler brand has been repeatedly repositioned and redefined, leading to a loss of identity and purpose in the marketplace. Jaguar, the storied British luxury brand now owned by India's Tata Motors, has seen its sales decline by over 50% since 2018. The brand sold just 12,429 vehicles in the U.S. in 2023, making it one of the lowest volume luxury brands in the market. This poor performance comes despite significant investment from Tata and sister brand Land Rover's relative success. Jaguar's struggles can be attributed to several factors, including an inconsistent product strategy and fierce competition in the luxury segment. The brand's attempt to expand beyond its sports car heritage with vehicles like the E-Pace and F-Pace crossovers initially showed promise, but failed to sustain momentum against established players like BMW and Mercedes-Benz. Meanwhile, Jaguar's sedan lineup has struggled to find buyers as luxury consumers increasingly shift to SUVs. In response to these challenges, Jaguar has announced a radical reinvention plan. The brand will become all-electric by 2025, abandoning its current lineup entirely in favor of new, purpose-built EVs positioned at a higher price point. This high-risk strategy represents a last-ditch effort to save the brand, but it remains to be seen whether consumers will embrace this new vision of Jaguar. Genesis, Hyundai's luxury division, presents an interesting counterpoint to our list. While the brand has received critical acclaim for its products and has grown its sales in recent years, it still faces significant challenges in establishing itself in the competitive luxury market. Despite offering vehicles that match or exceed the quality of established luxury brands at lower prices, Genesis sold just 39,742 vehicles in the US in 2023. The brand's struggles stem primarily from limited awareness and a still developing dealer network. Many consumers simply don't consider Genesis when shopping for luxury vehicles, defaulting instead to familiar German and Japanese luxury brands. The stigma of being associated with parent company Hyundai, despite Hyundai's own quality improvements, continues to hamper Genesis's ability to be perceived as a true luxury competitor. Genesis is working to address these challenges by expanding its lineup with new electric vehicles like the GV60 and investing in standalone dealerships separate from Hyundai's showrooms. However, building a luxury brand is a long-term proposition that typically takes decades, not years. Genesis has the product substance to succeed, but needs to overcome significant brand perception hurdles to avoid joining our list of declining brands permanently. Finally, let's look at Maserati, the Italian luxury sports car manufacturer owned by Stellantis. Maserati's global sales have fallen by over 45% since their peak in 2017, with just 7,338 vehicles sold in the US in 2023. This decline is particularly troubling given Stellantis's ambitions for Maserati to serve as its primary ultra-luxury brand. Maserati's problems stem from inconsistent product quality, fierce competition from established luxury brands, and an unclear brand positioning. The introduction of more accessible models like the Ghibli sedan helped boost sales volumes initially, but diluted the brand's exclusivity and failed to meet the quality standards expected at their price points. Reliability issues and rapid depreciation have further damaged Maserati's reputation among luxury buyers. Stellantis has announced plans to reinvigorate Maserati with new electric models, including EV versions of the Gran Turismo and upcoming Grecale SUV. However, the brand faces significant challenges in rebuilding its image and convincing buyers to choose its products over more established luxury competitors or newer electric-focused brands like Tesla and Lucid. So what does the future hold for these struggling brands? The automotive industry is notoriously expensive, with new vehicle development costs running into the billions of dollars. This makes it difficult for underperforming brands to invest in the competitive products they need to reverse their declines, creating a downward spiral that's difficult to escape. For brands like Infiniti, Fiat, and Chrysler, their parent companies may eventually decide that the investment required to revitalize them isn't worth the potential return. We've seen this scenario play out before with brands like Mercury, Pontiac, and Saab, which were ultimately discontinued when their parent companies determined they were no longer viable. Other brands on our list, particularly those with strong heritage like Jaguar and Maserati, may survive through radical reinvention. The transition to electric vehicles provides an opportunity for these brands to redefine themselves and potentially attract new customers who aren't tied to traditional automotive hierarchies. However, this strategy carries significant risks as it requires abandoning existing customer bases in hopes of attracting new ones. For consumers, the decline of these brands presents both opportunities and challenges. In the short term, struggling brands often offer significant discounts and incentives to move inventory, creating potential value for buyers willing to take a chance on them. However, purchasing a vehicle from a declining brand carries long-term risks related to resale value, parts availability, and dealer support if the brand continues to contract or eventually disappears. The broader automotive industry is likely to continue consolidating as the costs of developing new technologies like electric powertrains and autonomous driving systems force smaller players to merge or partner with larger ones. This could lead to further brand rationalization as automakers determine which of their nameplates deserve continued investment. What's clear is that automotive brands can no longer rely on their historical reputations or traditional approaches to survive in today's rapidly evolving market. Consumers have more choices than ever before, including new entrants like Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid that aren't burdened by legacy costs or outdated business models. Established brands must adapt to these new realities or risk joining our list of declining nameplates. As we look to the future, the automotive landscape will likely look very different than it does today. Some of the brands we've discussed may successfully reinvent themselves and return to growth, while others may fade into history. What's certain is that the next decade will be one of the most transformative periods the automotive industry has ever experienced. And not all of today's familiar names will survive the transition. What do you think about these struggling brands? Do you own a vehicle from any of them? And if so, what has your experience been? Are there any brands you think deserve to survive or others that should be allowed to fade away? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more automotive industry analysis.